Hey, Blues fans, it's time to talk about T.J. Oshie's career, as today he officially announced his retirement from the NHL.
Hey, this is Brayden Chen. Subscribe to Lock On Blues.
You're Locked On Blues, your daily podcast on the St. Louis Blues. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome back to Locked On Blues. I am your host of Locked On Blues, Haley Taylor Simon, talking to you all things about our St. Louis Blues here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today on Locked On Blues, we're going to keep it simple because it's all about T.J. Oshie as he announced his retirement from the NHL about an hour ago. This was news that hurts because of how much we love him here in St. Louis. And I think for just my own self, I grew up watching T.J. Oshie my entire life, basically. So for me not to see him play in the NHL anymore is just such a weird feeling, despite the fact that he was on the Washington Capitals. But we're going to talk all things T.J. Oshie on today's episode. So if you have a favorite memory of T.J. Oshie, please comment it down below. I would love to see it from all of you. T.J. Oshie was drafted 24th overall in the first round of the 2005 NHL entry draft. Before TJ went pro, he did play hockey at the University of North Dakota, and he developed into a strong two-way forward. With the Blues, he played from 08 to 2015 with a total of 443 games, 110 goals, and 200 assists, accumulating to 310 points. There was something really special about TJ Oshie, right? And each season, he usually contributed about 40 to 60 points per season. And TJ on the shootout. Oh, he was unbelievable. And I think that is what made him so unique, is how consistent he was. And you have to think about the Olympics. I mean, we're going to dive into that too, but that Olympic shootout, like, whoa, it's unbelievable what he did. And listen, there's so many memories, but he just was such an intense player, okay? But one of the seasons that I look back and I reflect on when it comes to TJ Oshie was his 2013-14 season, where he put up 60 points with 21 goals and 39 assists in 79 games. And here's the thing, he was one, in my opinion, of one of the best shootout. And this takes us to now the Winter Olympics. I got a little bit of ahead of myself. I was so excited to talk about this. And I think talking about TJ Oshie, there are so many things that you can really bring up and mention, which I will. I have some honorable mentions that are a little bit of some facts, a little bit of fun facts. And just, I got a new cat. So now I have two cats trying to get a hold of my microphone. But this 2014 Olympics, honestly, is what sealed the deal with TJ Oshie representing Team USA. He scored an incredible 4 goals in 6 shootout attempts against Russia. A performance was very memorable because, in my opinion, this was one of the most historic moments for USA hockey. And again, like, he will always be an Olympic hero, right? And I think too, and what made him unique, and I remember this story watching on a broadcast years ago, obviously, and this stuck to my head, and I don't know why, but I'm gonna still talk about it. Back in the day, how, like, with Gatorade, like, there's different flavors. Well, apparently TJ would have just like every single kind of flavor of Gatorade. And it was brought up, like, on the broadcast that, like, his teammates would joke around and say that he had, like, a Gatorade store in the locker room. And I know that might sound, like, very random, but when you're a kid, like, certain things stick with you. And for whatever reason, that stuck with me. I'm like, oh, that's, like, so funny. Like, he loves Gatorade. I don't know. But I remember the story too, and I put this in my graphic that I made that I'll show you in a minute, about when he drank out of the guy's prosthetic leg, I believe. Like, he just was such a fan favorite, and he would walk around St. Louis all the time, because I knew so many people that ended up getting pictures with him because he would walk around in his sweater. And I'm like, okay, that is cool, first off. but it was the love that he had for St. Louis. So I made a graphic, okay? Listen, I was editing as soon as I heard that he retired. I'm like, I need to dedicate all of today's episode to TJ. And tomorrow I will be collabing with Locked On Capitals and we're going to talk about him together. But I needed to do a St. Louis special on a legend himself. Look at that graphic, by the way, done by yours truly. So let's continue on. One quote, and this is now getting to the whole trade of what happened. In 2015, T.J. Oshie was traded to the Washington Capitals. In my opinion, yeah, it was hard. And I get like a little emotional thinking about it because I remember, where you were and how you felt. And he was really the heart of this team. And I don't know. I think for whatever reason, when he was traded, not that I lost hope, right? But at the same time, I just didn't feel like the Blues were getting necessarily what they needed. And it's nothing on Troy or the goalie prospect that didn't work out or whatever. But at the end of the day, I just didn't think it was going to help this team in the way that it should. But it was overall just really difficult. And you thought to yourself, right, after a really early exit into the 2015 playoffs, well, what was next for this team, right? I understand that the Blues, they wanted to bring some more youth in, and I understand that. And they got, Jaden Schwartz, who played a huge role. I mean, Vladdy came too. I believe Petrangelo came as well. Well, not came, but like they stepped up in a sense, right? I'm talking about the core that ended up stepping up that was younger then, not like came, right? But at the same time, he was a fan favorite. And to this day, I really do wonder what would have happened if TJ was still on the Blues, right? And, he called St. Louis his second home. And it was very brutal. Um, and Troy did contribute in the playoffs, and I'll give him that. But I think at the end of the day, with TJ leaving, it just shook up this city. And the raw emotion, right, from the fan base, I can speak for myself. It was devastating. However, we need to acknowledge what happened in Washington. He had success with the Capitals, okay? In his first season with Washington, he put up 51 points for 33 goals, which again, you have to give him credit for that. I mean, it was a devastating trade in my opinion, but at the end of the day, he wanted a cup. And it just so happened in 2018 he was able to win the Stanley Cup. And oh man, 1 second. One of the most emotional, impactful moments, in my opinion, with the game of hockey was T.J. Oshie being interviewed after the Capitals won the cup. And he said that he, basically did it for his dad and was thanking his dad, and his dad was battling Alzheimer's. And it's please watch it if you haven't. It's one of the most emotional raw videos I've ever seen. And I just remember sobbing in that moment because hockey, it's not just about the player, it's also about the families, right? And I'm just so happy for him that he was able to win that cup. And again, I think that at the end of the day, um, I would have loved for him to win it here in St. Louis. I would have. And there's a part of me that wonders, why did this happen? Why, but his dad got to see him win the cup. And it's just a very emotional thing to think about. And I was watching that interview today after he announced his retirement because it came up on my X feed. it's just really hard to watch because of how raw. But anyways, the following year, the Blues win the cup. Woo! So it was so ironic, right? Like the Capitals win the cup, and then the following year, the St. Louis Blues win the cup. So in a way, I feel like it all kind of like worked out in that sense, right? Um, I did not mean to get choked up. I'm so sorry. Like, I don't think there was a player, and again, it's not a disrespect to any of the guys on the team now, who truly not only loved the city, loved the fans, but played so hard. And um, you're not going to find that. That's a very rare finding that we had within TJ. But let's continue with some fun facts because this is a fun fact segment. I want to talk to you about some fun statistics and all that stuff. So he has scored over 50 career shootout goals, and he's one of the top all time in NHL history. By the way, he was awesome on the faceoffs. Okay, um, even though he was a winger, he literally had to take faceoffs all the time, right? And he had a win rate of over 50% in several seasons. We already talked about how he is an Olympic legend. His first NHL goal. It was honestly a highlight reel goal against the Vancouver Canucks in 09. I wish I could play video on here, but please look it up if you don't know what I'm talking about. Um, anyways, I had this down as like a fact. But one of the quotes that he said on that interview, by the way, just so you know, and I'm not going to get emotional this time, I had a little moment of like weakness. He said, he might not remember this tomorrow, but I will forever. We're just going to leave it at that. He loves to play golf, by the way. He's always playing in tournaments and helping out the community with different charity events. So, again, a nickname that I used to call him, by the way, as a kid was Mr. Shootout. And T.J. Oshie for the Olympics, obviously. One of the things that he was known for was being just like a very like chippy, chirpy kind of player on the ice, especially when he was like mic'd up. Like there's so many great, you know, videos of it, right? Of him like having these iconic moments, like mic'd up. And again, I wish I could play that for you here, but some of the things, yeah, can't do that. Um, anyways, a little bit of a fun fact. In the 2013-14 season alone, he scored 7 game-winning goals, which ranked in the top 10 of the league that year. So again, it just goes to show. I'm telling you, I have so many things. There's also T.J. Oshie Day in his hometown of Roarwood, Minnesota. And it was celebrated him after the Olympics with like a whole day of events and a parade. So that was really cool too. His rookie year, Keith Kachuk once hid Oshie's gear in the ceiling of the locker room, and it took him over an hour to find his gloves. And I'm telling you all these facts, right? You might be like, Haley, you're crazy. I spent 2 hours putting this together for you all because I wanted you just to know the impact that TJ had around the league, right? Um, anyways, so something that I find really cool about him is that he used the same mouth guard for years. Yeah, and he even joked and said it's his own personality. Um, anyways, after the Olympics, he was asked obviously about how he handled the pressure, and he said, "I'm not a hero. The real heroes wear camo." Aw. Um, after the Cup win in DC, he even shouted out the Blues during an interview and said, "I wouldn't be here without the Blues." So again, it just goes to show his love for St. Louis. And he was here, I believe, last year for one of the ceremonies when the Capitals were in town. Like there was a ceremony, so like that was cool. Anyways, he was the fastest to 100 points with the Blues amongst his draft class. So yes, amongst the 2005 draft picks, he was one of the fastest to hit 100 points, despite being a late first rounder. Okay, he was one of the few to score in 3 straight outdoor games. Yes, that is true. Between the Winter Classics and the Stadium Series games with the Blues and the Washington Capitals, Oshie scored in 3 separate outdoor games, a very rare thing. I know. Why am I mentioning this? Because the Blues, by the way, are your Winter Classic champions of this past season. Um, oh man, what didn't he do when he was in St. Louis? I even have this down. He played every forward position during his time in St. Louis, including center during injuries. He was trusted everywhere. Like you could put him anywhere in the lineup and he would be fine. I'm going to talk to you really fast. We're going to take a little bit of a break. Friends over at Monarch Money, and then we're going to go back to Oshie. Ever check your bank account and wonder where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track, and that's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place so you can just stop managing your money and start building wealth. When I started using Monarch, I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery. Now I budget smarter and I save more. By the way, if you are somebody like me and you hate having all these apps open, well, luckily it is all in one place because you can just use Monarch to check your finances, track your spending, and even your long-term goals. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money and use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year. We're going to go back to all of the fun facts about our beloved T.J. Oshie. So he wore an A multiple times for the Blues and the Capitals. Yes, we know he never got the C, and it's unfortunate because he did play as a captain. However, at the end of the day, it is what it is. So, anyways, you see, it's funny. It is so funny, right? Because we have this whole thing about his number, right? And we have numbers in senses of scores, and we have numbers in the senses of what he wore. And for me personally, I think that, I kind of laugh, right? Because I see how he is, with capitals and while that's great, I respect it. However, at the end of the day, it's still one of those things that is very weird for me because I remembered him a certain way. And I got choked up again. I know. But when I see the number 74, I just think about everything that he has done for this team. And it's emotional when a player retires that you really like. It really is. And I think when it comes to numbers, right? I listed out statistics and the impact that he made. But when I think of TJ, I think of 74. And I'm sure that there's a lot of fans, right? That might be like, okay, Hale, like it's just a number. But for me, for whatever reason, it just maybe hits harder. And I don't know why it does, but it just does. Um, anyways, I want to talk to you about just the cup run and just some more memorable quotes that he had. This is quote section. As I said, this took me 2 hours to compose. So please, please, please just bear with me because again, there's so much to talk about with him and I keep on getting emotional. Anyways, this was him on the cup run with the Capitals. There was no feeling like this. You grow up dreaming about it, and then it's real, and it's chaos, the best kind. He also said, and this isn't like with the cup, like just other quotes that I found that I really enjoyed. I'm not the biggest guy, but I play with a big heart. And I feel like that is how you describe T.J. Oshie. He said, St. Louis Blues gave me my start. They gave me everything. I'll always be grateful. And then another quote that I like is, it's not about one guy. It's the group, the locker room, the bond. That's what wins. And I think that those quotes that I chose specifically resonate who he was as a player. And, you know, I think it's easy, right, to say that, he was a good guy, but like he truly was a good guy. Um, so let's also talk about why he retired, right? Because I'm sure that's why you tuned in, not to see me all emotional over some of my favorite TJ Oshie moments. But he was dealing with some chronic back pain over the last few seasons. In the 24 season, he missed multiple stretches due to back pain and different maintenance day. He had back injections, and there was reports that he was playing through some serious discomfort. April 2024, he said, it's getting harder and harder to manage. I love the game, but there's days where I can barely bend over. And at 37 years old, obviously, he plays with such high physicality. And obviously, that's going to take a toll on your body. I mean, he takes hits. Like, he is accelerating all the time on the ice. Like, he does not slow down. Anyways, after the Capitals were eliminated in the 2024 season, he said, I'm going to take some time this summer with my girls and see where I'm at. They're at an age where I want to be present. He already won the Stanley Cup, right, in 2018 with the Capitals. So maybe there isn't this sense of finished business because, again, he already completed what most people strive to complete in the NHL, and that is to hoist Lord Stanley above your head. And we know that he was going to evaluate. Today, it was official. And to walk away from the game, it's really difficult, right? I mean, Tom Wilson, love him or hate him, he said, he's a warrior. He gave everything to this team every day. And he's played through concussions, collarbones that were broken, multiple fingers that were broken. He really, played a lot of hockey and physical hockey. I mean, over 1,000 games in the NHL. He has 3 beautiful children. And, to say that you can't even bend over sometimes, sometimes walking away, you just have to do it, right? And I can't even imagine, but, won the Stanley Cup, Olympic hero, over 1,000 games played, all-star, one of the most beloved USA hockey players in this generation. There's nothing more he has to prove. He will always be one of the greats here, not just here in St. Louis, but here as in the NHL. So I can't speak for Capitals fans because I'm sure you have a different relationship with him. But we had him for a while, and we drafted him. But, I mean, there is no player like T.J. Oshie. So congratulations on an incredible career. And I'll talk to you more tomorrow. And like always, let's go Blues.